What is good, Osiris? Here, stuck in the middle. Do uploads daily, 9 a.m. I was about to go to sleep tonight, and I got a response to a tweet, and I want to talk about it. I really appreciate the response, and Elon Musk talks about this, where he talked about it in the communication standpoint with Neuralink. And if you listen to the channel, you know I'm very big into Elon Musk and his companies. And if you don't know about Neuralink, I'll put a link up here to a video about it. He's working on putting chip implants into people's brains. And he talked about it from the standpoint of communication. The way that we communicate right now is inefficient when you compare it to computers. And a lot of the words and thought that you have behind the words gets lost when you try to process it from your brain and it leaves your mouth. And I know this is a weird thing to say, and if you're watching the channel, thank you so much for sticking with me. I struggle with that. I know something is off from where I try to communicate what's in my brain out my mouth. I'm losing a lot of that, more than I would like. So something that's on my mind, and that's why feedback is so important. Because to me, the feedback I'm getting is not just, the exchange of ideas. It is the map that lets me know what I'm not communicating well. On a side track here, Dr. Boyce Watkins is a prominent figure that I listen to, I like, and respect. I do not agree with everything. He's a black nationalist, and I am not. So let's be clear. I don't agree with everything he says. I have a white wife. He doesn't even respect that. But I can compartmentalize so much. I don't care. He's got a lot of good information. He went after Kwame Brown recently, and he became another Kwame Brown victim. The reason I bring him up, his last few videos that he's uploaded, he's had to turn off the likes and dislikes and turn off the comments. That's not good. He tried to get into this Kwame Brown thing for views, because Kwame Brown is just racking up views right now. And I want to do a video on him, but I just got to put my thoughts together. It's so vast. And he, in my opinion, he sneak dissed Kwame Brown. He tried to diss Kwame Brown in an intellectual way, kind of sneaking at it. Kwame Brown wasn't having it. And Kwame Brown fans have, I think that's what happened, swarmed Dr. Boyce Watkins' page, and he's in not a good place right now. The reason why I bring that up is to turn off the comments, you're flying blind. Where you're not getting any feedback. You're going to bump into walls. That can't be a permanent thing. I'm not turning off my comments and likes and dislikes. I've been ratioed before. That's fine. That's feedback. And the time when I got ratioed was when I was against force the vote, and I changed my mind. I looked at it, reevaluated, and I actually agreed I should have been ratioed because my thoughts weren't with people first. Damn the technicalities of the politics. So they actually helped me. And here's the feedback that I got. I posted this. I talked about this in my last video, but it was a long video, so you probably might not have seen it unless you made it to the end. But if you did, thank you. This is going to be a little bit different, though. I talked about what Colin Kaepernick has two tweets 9 years apart that show us what radicalization looks like. But I didn't do a good enough, it's Twitter. So I didn't do a good enough job explaining why I considered this radicalization. So I tweeted, this is what radicalization under critical race theory looks like. This is what they want our children to come away with after learning the 1619 Project. Elites are crazy if they think we're allowing our kids forced into this conclusion about the U.S. without disbanding the Union. So I tried to explain that it's the conclusion that's the problem, but it's hard to convey that on Twitter especially. 9 years apart, this is 2011. Colin Kaepernick said, "Happy 4th of July, everyone. I hope everyone has a blessed day." 9 years later, On the same holiday, Colin Kaepernick says, Black people have been dehumanized, brutalized, criminalized, and terrorized by America for centuries and are expected to join your commemoration of independence while you enslaved our ancestors. We reject your celebration of white supremacy and look forward to liberation for all. The reply I got from that was from Clifford J. McLeod, and I appreciate this is why I follow everybody and listen to everybody. I appreciate the response. He said, there is nothing radical about what he said unless you don't know the history here. So he brought it back to the history. And I would bet he's thinking that's the only conclusion you could have based on the history. You know, I've been a young man and I've had to battle through these thoughts. I've had to think through these thoughts for years. There was that fork in the road where when I learned the history, and much of the history, the facts I learned were outside of the classroom, because the classroom talked about slavery, but didn't really talk about slavery. So there's a reason why those in control want to plant slavery now. They want to use history as a weapon, as a way to make you come to a conclusion. And you look at Colin Kaepernick's conclusion here. His conclusion is that we are not liberated. You see it here. And look forward to liberation for all. Who is not liberated? He's saying that we are not liberated. That's his conclusion after looking at the history. And let me play this video to show how they pull on your heartstrings and use the evil of the past to force you into a conclusion that's not empowering, that keeps you down.
What have I, or those I represent, to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice, I must mourn. There's not a nation of the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of these United States at this very hour.
The danger in critical race theory is not in the facts. I think the facts are excellent to bring up. But when you look at it, I look at it and I wonder why. Why don't we let the facts come to school and let you come to your own conclusion? What really raises my eyebrow about critical race theory is it's not about the facts. It's about the conclusion being demonstrated and taught as if it is the only option. It is the conclusion that we are not liberated is the fact that they are teaching. Bruh, what opinion does anyone ever have that comes to you and says that it's fact? Where do they do that at? That it's not up for debate. And if it is up for debate, then you are a white supremacist, including me. No matter what the color of your skin is, you are effectively a victim if you disagree with it, you are effectively a victim to the white supremacist system. And even if you have black skin, you are effectively white. That's what they believe, young man. And I want you to use your head. Where do they do that at? Where anywhere in the walks of life do people take opinion and make it fact? Because if you come to the conclusion that we're not liberated, I'm fine with that. Don't get it twisted. You can come to that conclusion, and I'm not saying that we know for sure that you're right or I'm not, or I'm right. You see, my opinion is you can have your opinion, I can have my opinion, because I think for damn sure we're liberated. If you don't think Black Americans are liberated, I think you have a mental issue going on. I really do. That's something mentally that's you look at history. History can hurt you in the present. Facts from the past can hurt you in the present. Hurt you mentally. Because the interpretation of the history is not a fact. So who are you going to trust, young man? Are you going to trust someone who says, my interpretation is fact and there is no debate about it? Or are you going to talk to someone who says, you can have your conclusion, I'm just going to give you another perspective? That's what really raised my eyebrow about this stuff. And when I look back, if you read about philosophers, you read about Karl Marx, don't even get into the reading. The first thing when I learned about Karl Marx is that he thought his opinion on social and political issues were fact. That is one of the first things you learn when you study about these philosophers. One of the first things you learn. I'm telling you, I've been in lectures, and you can go on YouTube. I've been looking at lectures on YouTube. You know what? I'm gonna see if I can find a clip to play right here.
There are some thinkers in the Western tradition, I guess in any tradition, who have a particular characteristic that Bentham certainly has, and I think of the folks we're going to read, Karl Marx had, and Robert Nozick had. And the thing I'm thinking of here is they are the kind of person who takes one idea to the most extreme possible formulation. They ask themselves the question, how would the world be if this idea that I have is the only important idea? And they take it to its logical extreme, to an excessive kind of formulation. And they will go places with their idea that nobody else will go. And so that makes them a little bit crazy. They're monomaniacal, obsessively consumed with their idea. And
they look at this stuff as if it's fact, not to be debated. Your philosophy is not fact, sir. And the fact that you even think that makes you dangerous. Don't ever come to me with your opinion as being fact. That's some crazy talk. So I'm not even saying, Colin Kaepernick, you can come to that conclusion that we're not liberated. But when you start to make that fact, that is some craziness. Naomi Osaka is one of the most talented athletes in a while, especially in the field of tennis. I used to play tennis, so I'm a fan. And she is a young lady who is battling confusion and other things as well. And to me, what she's battling here is the success that she has, the talent that she has, going through these confusing moments of being taught about policing being evil and it all being due to white supremacy. None of it is due to your own decisions as a Black man, woman, or anything else. And she's struggling with it. She tried to speak out on policing issues, and she can't communicate it. And I think she almost feels like she has to. She's dropping out of Wimbledon, dropping out of the French Open. She wore 7 masks bearing names of Black victims to racism. Breonna Taylor. and you see the others there. She's confused. It's the philosophy of critical race theory, in my opinion, that has her confused. That's what I would challenge you to think. I'm going to end on this. So I replied, the danger of critical race theory is that it takes facts from history to conclude that we as blacks are still in shackles and chains. And that was shown beautifully earlier today with Nicole Hannah-Jones comparing someone who doesn't agree with critical race theory to a runaway slave. What an asinine comparison. And I said, things are not perfect. There are systemic issues, but we are for damn sure liberated. And Colin Kaepernick in his tweet said, we are not liberated. The only thing we aren't free from is the Democratic Party. I think that's something to think about. Take care.
I seen a family tree a while ago on my grandparents' side, on my grandmother's side. Doing my genealogy, my people are from Ghana, right? Which is the west coast of Africa, the Ivory Coast. You have Ghana. Most black people in America are from Ghana, the Gambia, Nigeria, those places that's on the coast, because the transatlantic slave trade was, of course, from the western tip of Africa across the Atlantic Ocean. So they had to get us people close to that area, which is a beautiful part of the world. Beaches, crazy, but Africa, the continent of Africa, and has been ravished and destabilized. There was a time when, it's funny, I'm glad we're talking about this. People talk about history, and we've talked about this a lot. A lot of people think that black people's history started with slavery, like that was it. Like we were just some bush people, snatched us up, brought us out here. No, that wasn't the case. There was slavery all throughout the world, in Africa and other places. Africans would enslave other Africans, but that was any country. That was a normal thing. The difference between that and what we had in the Americas was the harsh conditions, taking people from across the world, and just the brutality, like it was a Holocaust, Millions of people died on the journey. The journey was horrible. Think about it. We ride first class to across the world, and we're complaining about that. Imagine being in a boat, in the bowels of the boat, a wooden boat, like an ark, and we're merchandise at this point. They need as much merchandise as possible. So packed in like sardines, like this, right? Whoever I'm facing, I have to urine on, and they're probably defecating on me, and that's how it was, right? It was horrible, There's a movie called Roots. I would ask everybody to watch that, Roots, Amistad, these kind of movies. But I wish we had movies that predate that, right? Because we had vast wealth, amazing culture, mathematics, science, all of that. The Greeks and Romans were coming to Africa to learn from the scholars. But these things are never really talked about, for whatever reason. We talked about different sculptures and that were defaced, blowing noses off of the pharaohs and all of that stuff, because that's a clear, those things were colored beautifully back then. It wasn't like sandy, but it's been weathered and eroded over time. But if the features were there, you could clearly see what the people look like. You know, they made sure they got those noses off of there.
And this is why I think it is a big deal, because of this desire I have for everyone to know about where they came from and have some pride in it, because I think it's a great way for us all to realize that we have greatness in us, because no matter what country you talk about, there is some history to it, and there is some demonstration most likely of something awesome that happened there. And it's just a good thing for us to all move forward with knowing that wherever we came from, that we know about, because ultimately we're all human beings, but wherever, you know, our ancestors were culturally from, whatever piece of dirt that they hailed from, great things happened there. And that's inside of you. You know, we all want to belong to something. I know we like belonging to this team that we work with here. We like working together. Belonging, I think, is a really fucking important thing. I think it in our fragile human lives, it's a big part of feeling whole and feeling happy is belonging to something. And that was taken away from people who were part of the slave trade and other people as well, other cultures. But I think this is such a systematic demonstration of it to the level that really hasn't, to my knowledge, been carried out. Definitely not in recent history, where a group of persons were enslaved, but then also stripped of their culture. And that happened by bringing them across the Atlantic. And then, like you said, cutting out tongues, forbidding reading and writing, and literally in a generation's time, killing off the culture. And then from that point on, the only culture anyone knew to the large extent was you are a slave. That is your origins. Like, that's all you are, and that's all you've ever been.